What if the thing a toxic person fears most isn't losing an argument, losing control, or even losing a relationship? What if it's the moment they realize they no longer have access to your attention, your emotions, or your energy? There are many reasons why someone with strong narcissistic traits may struggle when a relationship changes, but one of the biggest is exposure. They may work hard to maintain a certain image, so having people recognize unhealthy patterns can feel threatening to that image. When you stop explaining yourself, stop defending yourself, and quietly create distance, you take away the opportunity for endless conflict. Another major factor is anxiety. A person who constantly needs outside attention or validation may find it difficult to sit with their own thoughts. Staying busy, seeking attention, or constantly looking for the next source of validation can become a way of avoiding uncomfortable emotions. But here is where your healing becomes powerful. Eventually, you may reach a point where this person simply doesn't matter to you anymore. Not because you hate them, not because you're trying to prove something. You just stop giving them space in your mind. You don't check their social media. You don't wonder who they're with. You don't replay every conversation. You don't wait for an apology. You don't spend your days wondering whether they'll regret what happened. You simply move forward. And that level of indifference can be one of the clearest signs that you've taken your power back. Maybe at one point, you were constantly trying to make the relationship work. You apologized when you weren't wrong. You explained yourself repeatedly. You gave more than you received because you believed that if you tried harder, things would eventually improve. Then one day, you realized something important. You were spending so much energy maintaining someone else's world that you were neglecting your own. That realization changes everything. You begin rebuilding your identity. You establish healthier boundaries. You become more selective about who gets access to your time and attention. And slowly, the version of you that existed before the difficult relationship begins to evolve into something stronger and wiser. Another fear can be losing relevance. When someone is used to receiving your attention and suddenly realizes that you're no longer emotionally invested, the dynamic changes completely. Your silence isn't revenge. Your distance isn't punishment. It's simply a boundary. And perhaps one of the hardest realities for anyone obsessed with appearance, status, or external validation is the passage of time. Nobody can remain exactly the same forever. Charm changes. Circumstances change. Priorities change. Eventually, everyone has to confront the difference between the image they want others to see and the person they are becoming. Money and status can also become sources of insecurity when someone's identity depends heavily on them. But your healing should never depend on watching someone else lose theirs. That's the part one really want you to remember. Don't sit around waiting for karma. Don't make your recovery dependent on seeing someone else receive consequences. Life will unfold on its own timeline, and you may never see the outcome you imagined. Your job is much more important. Close the door that needs to stay closed. Protect your peace. Stop checking for updates. Rebuild your confidence. Learn from what happened without allowing it to define the rest of your life. The greatest turning point isn't when the other person finally understands what they lost. It's when you realize you no longer need them to understand. That's when your attention comes back to you. That's when healing becomes real. And that's when your future becomes far more important than your past.